Thank you very, very much, Director, doctors. Doc, I will be here. Are we up for tomorrow in the, dealing with the smoke shops and tobacco?
Through the chair, yes, DPS. We've got the 2 zoning pieces for smoke shops on the agenda for tomorrow morning for DPS,
At 9:30 a.m.?
9:30 a.m. There's one other piece that's could take a lot of time, so we'll see if we go first or second on that agenda. And then hopefully we'll go to finance the following Monday afternoon.
Okay. We have more people, since they know that we're pushing it, have they signed up to get their smoke shops?
I haven't heard, through the chair, I haven't heard the latest data, but Shannon will present that tomorrow. Shannon Leonard from zoning about new folks. Yeah, that's the concern, for sure.
How do we, before we get to the legislation?
Sure.
How do we manage the flea shops? For example, when the flea shops start, you can put the zoning in, and we could put the marketing piece in for the physical plant. But the flea shops and how do you? We're looking to put a ceiling on how many smoke shops, because I know mainly on the west side it's
bad.
density. Yeah, it's very bad, especially in the walkable communities. So how do we monitor and control in the flea shops?
Through the chair, same way we do that with the flea markets, with food operating licenses, with the mobiles. So we've got experience. Our team does. We go to these events. We walk around. We make sure everything's above board.
Can you visit our community meetings to talk? Because residents, they've been inquiring about this here,
Yeah.
and they see that these smoke shops are, but they don't know the way. And if you visit and to talk about it, let's say in our different community meetings, that would be very, very good.
Through the chair, it'd be my pleasure.
Okay, good. I have one coming up on April 17th.
Okay.
And I would probably, I'd love for you to be there to
Okay.
discuss it. It's a lot of questions that's coming up.
Yep.
That way, because they'll read it in the paper, but you can answer questions.
Okay.
And that's good. It's good to stay connected. And then they can help us out as well. The more, if they know more, then they could tell us things, or they could call. Are you thinking about having a hotline or a tip line, or where you at?
Yeah, through the chair, we'll use 311 to just keep it all in the same place so our residents don't have to memorize a new number. But yeah, it's going to be all hands on deck. And what we're going to do is temporarily add 3 or 4 new members to the team. Duties is assigned to help fill in. We also have a foundation, the Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation,
Gotcha.
that's interested in contributing between $50,000 and $100,000 to the work. And so we'll come back for new legislation to accept that money.
That's great. That's
Yep.
great. Do you think they'll probably, if they donate, this year?
Through the chair, yes, that's their plan. Yep.
Or before we go on recess? What you think?
Through the chair, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well,
So once we get notified, we'll hit the legislation timeline. It'll take us about 2 weeks to turn that around and introduce it to this body. So we'll be talking for sure.
That's good. That's good. That's
Chair,
good.
can I add something to that? I know this.
Yes. Your microphone is off.
I just want to add something to that. I know this is not one of the ordinance that we talked to. I just want to add on what you're saying. I just want to say that the smoke shops are saturated in various parts of the neighborhoods. For some apparent reason, they have got a particular location in our community, and they're saturated, and they're self-serving businesses. There's no economic growth that comes back into the investment of the community that we are trying so hard now to build development and bring other population, other cultures, and other different things into our community. But when you see 4 and 5 smoke shops in the same street, spread it out less than 2 miles, less than 500 feet of churches, of organizations that deal with children. I mean, it mobilize the doggone neighborhood and the street. So, not saying that it's a terrible thing, because we understand people have a variety of flavor, and we know this was passed. I'm just saying that it's oversaturated now.
Yep.
And it's right in your face, like that's the common thing to have now in your neighborhood. And it's just so blatant that they don't understand that we are pouring so many more dollars into our communities, trying to develop them, trying to invest in them, trying to bring the right businesses back in our community. This is going to be a deterrent to what other businesses that want to come in into our community, that want to invest to do something different. You know, I'm just saying, we're just trying to just bring that together, you know, to a certain degree. Not saying that we can stop it, but just to look at the business aspect.
Yeah.
And I'm tell you something, just to see the saturation of the same businesses that's self-serving into our community is just a deterrent of what all the council members are trying to do in their community as well. So I just want to add that on to a chair statement when he said that just to see that it's just not investment per se. That's what we're trying to do with all the money that we have received and moving forward.
Through the chair, thank you. Thank you. I just want to thank the city council. This is Councilman Hairston, the chair of DPS, Councilman Santana. They scheduled it right away as soon as it passed here. So we're moving as quickly as government will allow us to move. And so hopefully by this time next week, we'll be having good news.
Having good news.
Yep.
You know, Council Lady, when you look at certain areas and you see the smoke shops, they're mainly on where it's high density. You know, just it's retail, it's follow high density. So we, Council Lady Jasmine Santana, Director David Margolius and his staff, I said, let's get in the car and go. Santana looked at me, Councilwoman said, you don't have to get in the car. So within these, matter of fact, they were even next door to each other. There's four, and we visit 4 smoke shops less than 15 minutes of walking. So they get in high density areas, walkable community. They need to be regulated. It's a risk and it's a threat to the community because they're all just doing their own thing. Right. So, you know, it's easy. Well, you can open it up. They have distributors that will bring them. If you open up a shop, they'll bring you your merchandise, and then you pay them from giving you merchandise. They make a great deal of money a month. And so it need to be regulated to protect the community, to protect the churches, to protect the schools, to protect the, even during the marketing, we said we'll measure if it's covering 25% of the windows, zoning, all of this right here have to be in place to protect our residents. If not, you will see on your strips maybe 10 or 12 smoke shops, and it would take over the entire community. So we have to deal with it right now. And as the director mentioned, it will also protect the ones that's there, because then they know the rules that we have to. So when we visited, we went in there in those shops, and some of them, you know, we can't talk about it on TV. We had to leave quickly. You know, we visited the shop. We did. Matter of fact, director, like, he ran out of there. I mean, Council Lady Santana. I'm serious, man. It's real bad. I went back to survey the scene so I could understand more what's going on. And then I called him up late at night, and I said, it is a sense of urgency. It's a sense of urgency that we have to move on this.
Yes, it is, because I visit through in my neighborhood, and I had a real nice congenial conversation with two other owners, you know, per se. And it was very respectful and understanding, but they understood my position as the council person and as a resident in that neighborhood, that the effects that it will have on what we're trying to bring a whole different, a business look and environment in our community for many, many years for the first time. And has that been considered? And also ask them, you know, where do you live? Do your area has a restricted zoning for this smoke shop not be in your neighborhood? It's not in their neighborhood because in the heights and the suburbs, you don't see them as much everywhere, but you got them down here in this neighborhood. So why didn't you put your shop in your neighborhood on a block, you know, where you can be seen and advertised? They're not doing that. They coming down, like you said, in the high density areas where it's walkable and putting them in other neighborhoods where they are taking advantage of this whole smoke shop situation. So just to say the least, that's how, as blunt as you want to be, I'm going to be as blunt as I want to be. Why isn't this shop in your community so you can be seen and show that, you know, this is what you're dealing with, you know, per se. And they don't have any of these shops. Even one person said he has 4. And none of his 4 shops are in his neighborhood. Not one. Not one. So yes, yes, we have to make a difference, even to put them out on Front Street. This is a type of business. If you don't want this business in your neighborhood, why are you bringing it down here in our neighborhood? So they have to face their own music. So I just wanted to put that out. I agree with you.
You know, Director,
No, I was going to say, it's pretty much, I like what you just said, Councilwoman. It's pretty much the same model they use for cash checking places, liquor stores,
Liquor
fast food
stores, yeah.
restaurants. They bring certain types of those establishments and those low-income communities because they capitalize off that community.
there they do. You know what would be great, Director, you know, we have these safety meetings, First District to the Fifth District, safety meetings. The health and safety are directly correlated.
Yes, they are.
It would be great if you had someone, even when you go to the Fifth District, that you could talk with, because when you go to these district meetings, you got a lot of concerned citizens that's there. Might be 12, maybe 15 of them, and then they'll watch and they'll see. Like you'll go to the 3rd District, 5th District, 4th District, and they'll help us out.
Yeah.
Because we need key stakeholders to help us with this.
The chair agreed. Agreed.
All right, with that, let's move to ordinance number 425-2025 as amended by Councilmembers Conwell and Griffin by departmental request. It's an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Health to enter into a contract with the Ohio Department of Health to perform environmental-led investigations of residents of Medicaid eligible and non-Medicaid eligible children, to enter into one or more contracts with various agencies, entities, or individuals to provide service necessary to implement this ordinance. Ordinance number 425-2025 have been approved by the Health Department, the Finance Director, as well as the Director of Law. Sir?
Through the chair, thank you. And there's one amendment to read off there. I don't know if you have to read it separately or not. This is this one.
That's on this one right here. We're gonna strike one. Insert funds. Director of Finance. I'll ask the lawyer, do we have to? Yeah. Give me a second. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have it.
Do we have to read it out loud? I don't mind.
You can go ahead and read it out loud, but I already have it.
Yes.
Legislation, since it was already done.
Oh, okay.
We cool. Cool beans. We move forward then.
So we're good. Okay. Thank you.
So,
Just
Director,
specifying the fund, through the chair.
Okay, but if, is this already
It's already
included in that? Okay.
Oh, okay. My bad. My fault.
So you're right. It's already in there. Like 2 weeks ago.
Got it.
It was already in.
Okay.
So we don't have to strike it and do the
Great.
ands and the ors and
Great.
all those things.
Thank you.
In the amendment.
So through the
So-
chair, yes, this is our routine re-up with the Ohio Department of Health to continue our lead program through the health department. This allows us to do those investigations when a child does test positive for lead poisoning. We get reimbursed, and that money is spent in a number of different ways, working with our the contracted inspectors, the lead risk assessors that we hire for overflow, all of our dust swipe analysis, and various other entities to do these investigations.
So how's that been coming along? You guys monitoring it and what?
Yes, through the chair. So we receive referrals for about 250 to 300 children in Cleveland testing positive for lead poisoning at greater than 10 micrograms per deciliter. The number, as we've presented to this body, and we'll present in a couple weeks in a full session on lead poisoning.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, the number unfortunately has been stable over the last 5 years or so, the number of children. Based on those children, their values, we reach out to the families and then we do the investigation if they're in a home older than 1978. And so we go out to their home, do an analysis, identify lead hazards, and then work with the property owner on a remediation plan towards compliance, which is full abatement at that point. So it's, through the chair, it's going, as far as the performance of the team, extraordinarily well. The team, and Atoy Shaquila Young will come in 2 weeks to present to you. The team is led by just an incredible leader. There are 8 members of the team now, including our part-time folks who have joined on, including an individual who you helped us recruit, who speaks Arabic and Swahili.
Yeah. Habari Gani.
yeah.
Speak the Swahili. I like that.
And so the performance is outstanding. Folks will remember on the side of the table that in 2015, notoriously, the health department had a backlog of 2,000 to 3,000 uninvestigated cases. We're on probation from Ohio Department of Health, but now we're in great standing. They audit the work and tell us that we're surpassing all of our goals in terms of the work. But every time we get together, we don't celebrate that because there continues to be just so many kids who are poisoned. But we're proud of the team and feel really good about the work that's being done.
I know people that were disappointed. You weren't here, but they were disappointed back then from downstate.
Yep.
And I remember I had a sidebar with you on that.
Yes.
And, but I'm glad we're moving forward with it. Do you guys, when we test the children, do we see recidivism? Do it come back? I mean, I don't know your world.
Through the chair, recidivism in terms of the result or in terms of reentry and
Right.
So
So you
through the chair. So when the level is elevated, one of the first things that we look at is the trend over time.
good.
And so it's as far as lab values, it's stubborn. It is a stubborn value because it gets entrenched in the bone. And so if someone has a value of 10, it can be years before that value gets down to 0 for a child because it's so slow moving all the way out of the blood. But if it's trending in the right direction, that means the source is gone from their home, but it's still in their blood. It's still going down and it's still causing that brain damage.
I understand.
Yeah.
So do they, doctor, so when you find out, is it different stages, different levels, and do they have to constantly go back for testing, let's say every quarter or semi-annually?
Through the chair, exactly as you said, every 3 months until the level falls below detectable. And so if the value is above 40, that's the level that you need hospitalization, chelation treatment. But anything but under 40, the treatment doesn't help. It doesn't make a difference. And so it's a lot for those families going through this.
So through the chair, we have
Or
two
chambers, by the way.
components of the program. We have the case management who follows the child, and then we have the environmental investigation who focuses on enforcement of the house that has the lead. So we divide that in two pieces. So the child is being followed, and then the house is being followed.
Good, you got it. So with case management, do we have, what do you call that? Like quality control?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And so that way you guys look at where we're trending, what the doctor just mentioned?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's a good thing. I know you have something to say. This is, no, she's good.
Yeah, I guess.
She's good. Rebecca, good.
No, you know what, Chairman, I was gonna offer to have that same story get told about, you know, the how much has changed for the health department in the last 10 years. So you already talked about it, but just to like really highlight for the public, you know, the health department was at risk of losing its delegated authority to do these investigations, and we have really turned the ship around. I know you're extremely proud of it. I think we all are, and very grateful for the leadership of the team that continues to do this. Maybe if you want to maybe just say out loud for the public a little bit about the differences in the levels, you know, 3.5 to 10, 3.5 to 9.9 versus 10 plus, about what your team does.
Great.
Through the
Thank you.
chair.
Thanks so much. Through the chair, so any blood lead level that's above 0 is dangerous. The higher it is, the more danger, the more damage it causes to the brain. Our environmental investigation, the cutoff is the greater than 10 level, and that's something that's set by the state. So when we get those cases referred to us, about, like I said, about 250 a year, if it's greater than 10, that's where we do the full starting with telephone survey, knocking on doors to try and get a hold of someone to figure out what their risk factors are, which then, if appropriate, leads to the in-home investigation with XRF guns to identify if there's an active lead hazard in the home. For those cases that are referred to us that are 3.5 micrograms to 9.9 micrograms per deciliter, that's more case management. We mail, we do phone calls, we try to get a hold of folks to talk about what is going on in their home, what their experience is. We are able to offer different cleaning equipment, which, you know, isn't always ideal. And if the number is trending down, we're somewhat reassured. If the number is trending up, then we're very concerned, and when we step up what's available. This is in contrast to now CMHA. Their rule set by HUD is if their level is above 3.5 for one of their voucher apartments, then they are doing an investigation and potentially moving someone out of the home if they do identify a lead hazard, if it's between 3.5 and, well, if it's 3.5 and up.
Thank you. And I wanted to next turn a little bit to, you know, I think you've been very clear-eyed, Director, that we don't need additional testing to show that we have a crisis in Cleveland. But of course, we still want as much testing as possible so that all of our families and kids are as healthy. So there's sort of the systemic question and then the individual question. Could you talk a little bit about the health department's involvement with screening and testing, the Screening and Testing Commission, and the new work with Better Health Partnership? Through the chair.
Thank you. Through the chair, so yes, we did unique tests in children of 1 and 2 year olds and up to age 5 in Cleveland in 2019 was about 11,000. Every year since then, it's been about 8,000. In 2023, it was 7,800. In 2024, it was 8,200. So maybe a slight uptick in testing in 2024. But we expect to continue to increase our testing through ARPA funds that this body allocated. $500,000 has been dedicated to improving screening and testing, and Better Health Partnership has taken the lead on that project now, or just about under contract through the Lead Safe Coalition. And so what they're doing is getting all the healthcare partners in town together to figure out what are those best practices that some clinics are doing better than other clinics. One example that we always highlight is a Cleveland resident, a child who lives in Glenville is more likely to be tested for lead if they have a pediatrician who works in Cleveland compared to a pediatrician that lives in the suburb. And
Gotcha.
so
I see.
if your family who lives in Cleveland, you bring your child out to the suburbs, your pediatrician might forget that you need a lead test compared to if you're seeing pediatricians in Cleveland. So that feels,
That's not in their world.
it's not in their world. It just feels very solvable. And so we're grateful Better Health Partnership now on payroll to help us solve that problem. Our health department leads public meetings every 6 months to review the data. Our next meeting is coming up April 24th, Thursday, April 24th at 8 a.m. I think I got that date right. That's a Thursday. And yes, April 24th. And we'll go through that data, the latest that we have, to show what's going on. Also, you want to talk about the billboard campaign?
Yes,
Yeah.
through the chair to the
Can I have a
councilwoman.
point? Just a point on Dr. McGoldrick's analysis, on your analysis.
We yield back.
I'll be right, I apologize. I just want to point on your analysis saying that a doctor that's in the Heights wouldn't normally test a child coming from the urban community because it's not in his world.
Right.
However, that should not be the case because of the housing laws that if all houses that that has lead from 1978, should that be part of all the medical state rules of the medical for all doctors to test regardless if it's not in their world and where they are at? Isn't that a state law for them to test a child regardless if it's not in their world per se?
Through the chair.
I'm just
That's
throwing
correct.
that out there.
That's correct.
Since
Yep.
if that's how they're thinking,
Yep.
but state law and it requires that all the kids that live in that environment, shouldn't they have been fed the same information per se?
You know what? I'm thinking,
That-
here's my
I'm just-
assumption.
I'm-
I'm not Dr.
And
Margolis.
I'm just throwing that out there
No, of
since
course.
that was stated per se, and this was going on before 2019.
Right.
We just keep bringing it up over and over again. So this is not new information. It just has been lax and not being done on a consistent basis. Now it's back up again. So by you just saying that, I'm just asking a question by you saying that because it's true. It's really true, and we're speaking truth now. So I just that kind of clicked in my brain. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
I think in the inner city, by Dr. David Margolius, his department in Cleveland is driving it. And he's talking, like he just said, there's a meeting on April 24th. So in that paradigm, they hear it a lot more than in the suburbs.
Yes.
Because in the suburbs, you don't have someone championing. That's the word I'm looking for. By you're championing it more here, and it's in their face, they have a tendency to say, oh, let me look at this, because it's in my world. That's my assumption that you were narrating to us.
Yeah, through the chair. No, you're correct. It's absolutely correct. They should be doing it. They're not. But with this funding to support a whole team that's going to be kind of in their face and sitting next to them and emailing them every time they miss a result and, escalating when they miss a result, we hope that we solve that gap. Because you're right, they should do it, and I'm grateful. I appreciate you saying that, but so many champions. So
No, but I
Yeah.
mean, like
Yep.
here, you're the leader
Yep.
of, you're over the health department.
Yes.
And as the council lady mentioned, 10 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you had no one to champion it, or to get the health department, let's say, have a culture of execution, then it
Right.
would have lost our accreditation, the whole 9 yards. You got to have that leadership.
Yep.
So it's there. It's well put.
Thank you.
So I
Chair,
just wanted to
Commissioner
add,
Chambers.
to the
Yes,
chair-
sir, Commissioner.
to the councilwoman, just to address her question, is that a lot of people assume this is an inner city problem. So you see a lot of these houses in the inner city that's due to poor maintenance, whereas you go to the suburbs, they had deferred income. to take care of these problems and not have deteriorated pain at times. So they don't view it as a problem in their certain communities at times as well.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But also, Chair, to Commissioner,
That's
it
what
is
you're
a
saying.
problem.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
Right, I
I'm just
know,
saying the
I'm
philosophy
disagreeing with
behind
you. I
it.
know what
Yeah,
you're saying.
Yeah, I'm
red
just
line.
echoing
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
It still is a problem. They just not viewing it as such as like inner city, as the suburbs or the heights, but it is a problem nationwide.
Yes.
And they shouldn't view it as that. That's why a lot of the kids have not been tested and should have been tested, and now they dealing with a severe ADH and other problems. I'm not a doctor, I'm just saying, let me pull that back, because let me put that, Dr. McCollum's in there. But I'm saying that by the evidence that has been seen, not saying that that is one of the cases that why our kids are having that, Dr. Margolius, just help me out a little bit. Let me just clean that part up. However, the problems that our kids are having in school with their
Cognitive behavior.
yes, yes. That is coming from the lead issues that's in their system, and that has been overlooked in these areas that these kids had not been tested prior to what assumption, was. So now we're here, and I'm just educating myself, listening, understanding a lot of the process that has been overlooked over time with a lot of kids dealing with this. That's all. So I'm just echoing everybody, just tailgating, just learning. So, okay, let me.
You're okay, Council Lady.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. I really appreciate that.
So I wanted to
sure.
briefly address
yeah.
your question prior to. So we did receive $1 million grant from Ohio Department of Health to do prevention as well. So we're doing billboards and advertising in communities as a preventive effort, as well as screening
Yeah.
to address lead poisoning before it becomes EBL.
Yeah, I love those billboards. The little girl, the Superwoman costume is really great.
Designed in-house.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to lastly turn to, I think, one of the trickiest aspects of the health department's work, which is placarded homes. After, we get to the point of a placard after a child has both tested for an elevated blood lead level that's fairly high, above 10. We've done an investigation. We've found a source of poisoning. We've made a work plan for that owner to fix the property, and they haven't. And then they've gotten an extension, and then they still haven't done it. And then the final step is we're supposed to placard the house and put up a sign that says this home is a hazard. It's not inhabitable right now. The Bibb administration, when I came into office, essentially, you could just tear down that placard and sort of nothing would happen after that. They were languishing. There were hundreds of homes on this list. We took one important step, which was putting an affidavit onto the deed of the property, so you couldn't just blindly transfer it to some out-of-state LLC that didn't know what was going on inside the home. And I know we've gotten some great results from that, but we're now a year or two into it, and I wanted to get a sense of how many properties are still on that placarded list, where they're at, and sort of what is our next step to keep driving that number down.
It might be on there.
Thank you. Through the chair, so
Sure.
thank you, and thank you for your role in ensuring that we were placarding those properties all those years ago. So the current number of placarded properties is around 390. There is a website on the Ohio Department of Health website, a dashboard where you can pull up second order LHCOs, and that is kept up to date, I think, daily, which has been really helpful for our teams to see the progress. And yes, as you said, once we got those affidavits on the county recorder's office, which was a heroic undertaking, and thanks to Commissioner's Chambers' county connections, because he came from the County Board of Health, helped make that go through. A number of property owners called us desperately to tell us that no, how do I get this off, and got into compliance. And so
Call us too. They call us.
yeah. But unfortunately, still 390, still putting placards up, still concerning things that we see when we're out there. Some properties have been addressed, but they didn't do it the proper way. And so we'll put a placarded property on like what looks like a brand new house. And it's just like they just need to do the proper things with a clearance exam with a lead risk assessor, and others just still look the same. It might be abandoned. Maybe there's someone living there, maybe not. And so this is still a sad part of the work, and definitely eager to solve that problem.
Yeah. Does your team have a sense of how many of those 300? My microphone is not on.
Sorry.
Do you have a sense? Does your team have a sense of how many of those 390 are currently inhabited through the chair?
Through the chair, I can ask, and we can bring that an estimate next in 2 weeks when
Yeah.
we come back.
I would appreciate that. I think my sense is that plenty of people live inside these properties, and I think we've had one wave of success, right? The affidavits were one wave of success, but we got to keep at it because 390 is still far too high. I'll close off just by saying.
So can I
Oh.
add something through the chair to the
absolutely.
councilwoman? So what we've been doing is we've been working with the law department on addressing the LLCs and taking them to court. Now, what we do with owner-occupied, we try not to be as heavy-handed because some people don't have nowhere to go. So we're trying to work with them, but we have a system or plan that we're trying to address the LLCs and the non-owner-occupied, the rentals. We're trying to take them to court systematically and periodically. So I filed probably about 70 cases against landlords at this time, and it's continuing.
Can you bring that? You don't have to show us, for confidentiality, you don't have to show us what, the landlord's names, but at least the numbers and.
Yeah, I probably can get that from the
Yeah,
law
you don't have to
department.
even show us the address, because I like people to have confidentiality for that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. And I really thank you for adding that about the court cases. I think that's a great example of like we sort of have these waves of chipping away at this backlog, right? And there's the affidavits was one wave, the filings was one wave, and we got to kind of figure out what our next wave is to tackle 390. And then I'll just close out by sort of previewing both for the committee and for anyone listening in the public, because lead is very confusing and there's sort of a web of activities happening, that the conversation we're having today is under the reactive model. This is what we do after a child has been poisoned. And the conversation we're going to have on the 21st when we have all of our housing
Prevention.
partners at the table is prevention. So what we're going to do to fix our homes before a child becomes poisoned. So those are sort of two separate tracks. They sometimes intersect when it comes to repairs, right? But they start out in different places. So that is just something I want to hold up a neon sign, make sure everyone knows about why it's just you guys here today. Reactive starts at the health department. And you guys, this is the legislation to renew your ability to sort of be the delegated authority from the state of Ohio, and I am in support of it.
Great. One quick question when you close out. The housing. And I'll yield to you. When you find out that there's issues with the placard you just mentioned, do you forward it over to building and housing as well? So when they try to get a permit to rent it out, if they didn't take care of their issues and concerns, that their home rental is denied?
Yes, through the chair, to the councilman, yes, we work with building housing. We share information regarding EBLs, because what happens is a lot of times they may be applying for the certification and may have a lead hazard control order, and the certification doesn't address the lead hazard control order. You need a lead abatement contractor at that point when it comes to a level of the house having an EBL child in it. So that takes it to a different level than the certification process.
Okay, thank you. I'll yield here. This is one of the kings of the lead movement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we on 425, or are we just doing all of them at once?
425.
Okay. Through the chair, on 425, on section 1, line 4, or lead into it says, conduct enforcement activities for lead hazards in residents occupied by Medicaid eligible and non-Medicaid eligible children, which sounds like all children. So through the chair, why are we wording it that way if we're just including all children?
Through the chair, thank you for noticing that. So that's the language from the state for our contract. There is an emphasis on Medicaid children for those reimbursements, but it's just the language that we have put in our contracts from the Ohio Department.
And through the chair, I think it's because they receive Medicaid dollars. They want to emphasize that in the legislation. So
Okay, but
for-
kids who don't receive Medicaid dollars are also eligible,
Yeah,
so
yes,
it's
that's
really
right,
all
yeah.
children.
Yep.
Okay.
Smart man.
One other question. I'm a big fan of not to exceed clauses. And so that sort of has me look at this. It seems like the heart of the matter here through the chair is that we are allowing you to enter into contract with the Ohio Department of Health to perform these investigations on their behalf, on the behalf of the Ohio, right?
Through the chair, we're the local delegated authority, but allows us to enter into that contract, but also the contract to expend the money for the analysis, for our private contractors,
Right.
for
And,
various other
and through the chair,
entities.
we will make some money off conducting these because that is also mentioned in here that that money goes into Fund 10 SF 304 that we make from conducting the inspections.
Well, through the chair, the money is brought in and then we expend it.
Right.
So we also are fans of the caps that you referenced.
Yeah.
The challenge with this is it would be difficult to predict a cap, but we can also just give reports on how we're spending and,
Sure. And then through the chair in section 2, aside from doing the tests in-house, you will also be able to contract with JA Consultants, Environmental Health Watch, Accurate Analytical, and the Cuyahoga County Health Department. And I think that's the one that really jumped out to me because a lot of us on this side of the table, Mr. Chairman, as you know, believe that a lot of this health stuff is supposed to be handled by the county. That is supposed to be the sort of like state's repository for enforcing health code and all that stuff. I'm not familiar. Do we have many cases where we actually pay the county to do this work through the chair?
Through the chair, no.
a good question.
But it is, I mean, as you know, and as you brought up at this table, there are a lot of children who spend time crossing the borders, the magical borders between Cleveland and suburbs. And so they're a very close partner. We're regularly in touch with the county. And so
But through the chair, do we have a contract? Do we pay them?
through the chair, at this moment, they're paying us for various contracts in the health department, but we are our own entity, so absolutely doing health. So yeah, I think that would be rare, but there might be cases where, say we visit someone, and we find out their grandparent lives in Euclid, and that's what needs to be tested. And so there's just a shared resources mindset so that we're doing the work. But we're not paying them with general fund funds. It would be, if anything, we would be entering in agreements for
Right.
for the Ohio Department
Through the
of Health
chair to the
contracts.
councilman, it's more of information sharing, as he mentioned. We're not giving them physical dollars. We're just sharing information because we're so contiguous that somebody may jump over to the county or back to the city. So we track and we communicate with each other to track the families. That's all.
That's a good thing. That's more than I saw. That's very, very good, Commissioner.
Through the chair, so this isn't the first year that we've done. We've been doing this for a while. This has been standard procedure. So through the chair, what is our average expense on this?
Through the chair, it really does change year to year. And so, I mean, we do, let's see, so we did 137 inspections last year.
That's good.
And so that would have been $137,000.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I would ask, like, if it's possible, if we can use previous numbers to put a not to exceed, and we can go over 137, but I think I think not to exceed clauses are sort of fiscal responsibility, right? I mean, otherwise it's just an open check. It's a blank check, and you can spend as much money on this as you want. I mean, wouldn't it make sense for us to include a not to exceed $150,000?
Through the chair,
if
this is,
137
so
is
this
the
isn't,
current?
I agree with that in terms of general fund dollars and Cleveland taxpayer funds. This is Medicaid reimbursement.
This is only money coming from the state, covers the entire cost of this.
Through the
I
chair.
thought that was supplementing the cost.
No, it's from the state.
Okay. The money we received from the state covers the entire cost of this.
Through the chair, yes.
Okay.
And you put
My
a cap
bad.
on it, which will hurt them.
No, my bad, my bad. No, we don't want to put a cap on how much money we can take from the state. No. I thought we were getting some funds from them for this activity, but then supplementing that
Yeah.
with general fund dollars. And that's how we did it. But
Yeah, no, through the chair, you're not entirely wrong. There is a professional contract line in our budget, which you could pull up and use that as a not to exceed. But
But if that's already in the budget, we already did the budget,
Right,
and that's already a
exactly.
capped
Yep.
expense, then that's cool.
exactly. Yeah.
My New Year's resolution, Mr. Chairman, was to look for not-to-exceed clauses in every single piece of legislation, because I've noticed there's been a couple of times where we failed that, and all of a sudden the program got crazy on me, and I was like, why did they get to spend all that money? It's like, oh, there was no not-to-exceed clause.
And through the chair, if we went crazy on this program, it'd only be because somehow, more and more children are being poisoned by lead.
There are other financial controls, and if you're saying that the money from the general fund that can be used on this is already allocated in the budget that we already approved, and you can't exceed the money allocated in the budget, then that cap is already there. The rest of the funds come from the state, and I'm not going to ask us to put a cap on how much funds we can accept. I now understand.
Through the chair, we are grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for the opportunity to question, and holler at me when we get to 237.
Okay. We're almost there.
Any more questions on 2025? With that?
425.
425. Got it. Any more questions? 425, 2025 as amended? So move. So, there, Vice Chair. Ordinance number 237, 2025 by Council Members Conwell and Griffin by departmental request. It's an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Health to enter into an amendment to contract number CT 5001 PS 2024-364 with the Ohio Public Health Association to provide additional temporary staffing and to change the term of the contract. Ordinance number 237-2025 have been approved by the Health Department, the Finance Department, as well as the Law Department. Director.
Through the chair, thank you. So this is the Ohio Public Health Association, which is an agency that exists to support local health departments across the state. There are about 100 local health departments. They have extra epidemiologists that they hire out, extra nurses, and caught our attention when they began to have extra environmental health specialists, health inspectors. And so we entered into a small contract with them last year to help us get through our busy periods for food inspections. We brought on 2 extra health inspectors part-time. Both had full-time jobs and so would work nights and weekends with us. And that was very successful. And so we would like to extend that contract for another year with a 1-year option to renew with a not to exceed of $100,000 for working with those health inspectors nights and weekends.
Questions?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I don't think she.
I do.
She's okay. I saw you itching over there.
No. So I was reading these. I was like, hey, we got a not to exceed. That's great. No, that's not it.
He heard you.
This is
This is called fiscal responsibility, right? That's our job. Through the chair, there's 2 questions. What percentage of inspections do they conduct? So we have a certain number of inspections we conduct throughout the city every year. What percentage are they as the Ohio Public Health Association? What percentage of our public inspections are they conducting?
Through the chair, to the councilman. So it's not a percentage, it's just as needed. So when we get down and we feel we're feeling a crunch, we seek their help. So we had a pilot 10-week project for $10,000, and they conducted, there's 2 of them. One conducted 80 inspections, one conducted 52. So the total amount they did for the 10-week period was 132.
Wow.
Through the chair in context, total inspections, 5,000, 6,000.
Right. That's
Out of 5,000, 6,000
exactly.
the city does.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I would have to say that 80 and 52, 132 inspections for $10,000 is a great deal. We're we're times 10ing that. we're going from 10,000 to 100,000. Are we expecting them to do 800 and 520 now? Is that
through the
right?
chair, we're in the process of hiring some sanitarians. So we have 5 positions for environmental health, sanitarians, and training. So hopefully we don't have to use them as much, but it's good to have as a safety net. because I want to sleep good at night when we get to the point of,
I see what he's saying. Contingency.
yes.
Not to exceed being.
Yeah. And so my last question is about the not to exceed. So is that 100,000 per year for including the renewal?
To the chair, that's $100,000 total.
Total.
And so that's the nice thing. If we only spend 40,000 this year, we'll be able to renew the contract.
And spend
with
the
this
rest of it.
authority
Yes.
And keep spending. And if we do spend it all, that would be a worst case scenario, then we would always come back to you
Sure.
next year to ask to add money to that contract.
But through the chair, the anticipation is that the 100,000 would last 2 years. So on average, we would go from 10,000 a year to 50,000 a year. So quintupling.
Through the chair, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we could spend $100,000 in a year. I think with the anticipation is the range there, and so
Okay.
we would like to spend as little as possible on this contract because, as Commissioner Chambers mentioned, we have 4 new health inspectors going through background check right now, and 1 who's still weighing their options on whether or not they're going to say yes.
Okay.
But it takes about 3 to 6 months to train them up to
Right.
be able to do independent inspections, and so
Wow.
we might spend more this year than next year, but we will anticipate asking for a similar amount in the budget for next year and having a conversation with you next year, talking
Okay.
about how it's working.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like
Mike.
contingencies while you're training them, you still
Exactly.
keep moving
Yep, you got
forward.
it.
Yes.
And when they're trained, then you don't anticipate spending out of your contingency
Right.
funds.
But unfortunately, we
control it
run
better.
into people who went on family leave and things of that nature that we didn't account for that caused us some staffing problems.
I understand it. I see it. I'm looking at it right now.
My questions have been answered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any
Yes,
other
I
que-
have an additional question.
Council lady?
Chair, to the team. Could you just be clear and clarify what type of inspections are being done?
Through the chair to the councilwoman, they're doing the same type of inspections as our registered environmental health specialists. So they have the credential of registered sanitarian, and they perform the same activities.
Okay, just want to be clear to the public so they can have an understanding of the breakdown of the inspections.
Through the chair, both of the people that we
Chair,
hired
too.
were former health inspectors. One was from the city of Cleveland, one was from Summit County, so they're very familiar with the work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Ordinance number 237, 2025. The executive summary. With that, so moved.
Yeah, but-
So that completes the Health and Human Service of the Arts Committee today, Monday, April 7th. Thank you very much.